It's what I've always wanted.
Steve's got the stars.
Got a big old cushy chair. It's nice.
Today, Premiere Week keeps rolling with late-night legend Jay Leno.
How about that?
Plus Jordan Sparks. And coming Friday, Charlie Sheen and a performance by Leanne Rimes.
It's all new and it's gonna be big.
And it's all on Steve.
New York, weekdays at 2 on NBC4, New York.
Are you ready to unapologetically unleash your bold and define your life, money, and business? Define You Radio class is in session with host the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace, brings you the stories behind the glory. Hear from women and men who decided that life didn't define them. They were going to define themselves. Pen and papers ready. Class is now in session.
Hello, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Define You Radio. I am your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. I hope you guys have had a great week. Even though it's just beginning, I love every day, okay? We should all wake up with that. We're going to show up and show out attitude every day. I hope you guys have had your chance to grab your copy of Keep It Queen-like on my website. If not, it's still free. It's still there. Go to valenciagwallace.com and get it while it's hot, bold, defined, and unleashed. Well, tonight's featured guest, our featured teacher, Nicole Mason. I am so excited. You guys just don't understand how I have been counting down the days, the hours, the minutes, the seconds to have this young lady on the show. Now, a little bit about Nicole. She helps women leaders in ministry and the marketplace show up great. You know, like I say, if you're going to show up, show out. But now you're going to learn how to show up, show out, and show up great. With authenticity, confidence, competence, and courageousness. I love her, you guys. Ever since I talked to her, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I posted this on Facebook, my soul has felt lighter. And that's a powerful thing. It's like she reached in literally and grabbed me through the phone, which was quite an experience because I was driving at that time. So with that being said, I don't want to hold class up. I want to welcome Nicole to the show. Welcome to Define You Radio.
Hey there, sweetie pie. Thank you so much for this awesome opportunity, and I am smiling from ear to ear. I appreciate this opportunity, and I certainly am grateful for our fellowship that we did have a few weeks ago. It was certainly sweet, and I appreciate God for those kinds of moments. So thank you for inviting me tonight.
Well, thank you for showing up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Showing up and showing out and showing out great.
Yes, I love it. I can't wait. My pens and papers are ready to take notes. So, Miss Nicole, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit more about you, you know, kind of fill in the gaps with what I may have left out?
Okay. Well, whenever I'm on a show or have the opportunity to speak to the people, I'm always kind of like, oh man, that is such a complex question. Who is Nicole Mason? So I always like to start with the fact that I am a wife to my college sweetheart and a mom to 3 sons, and that's very interesting to say the least. The only woman in the house. And I am a preacher. I love to preach the gospel. I was born to preach. When I'm in the preaching moment, I am my most alive. I am also an attorney, and I'm a best-selling author. and an executive leadership coach. And I am, wrapped all up into what I do in terms of my work with women. I would just say I am a champion of women. I want women to win. I want them to win in every area of their lives, no matter what they are called to do. I want them to do it with authenticity, with power, with boldness, unapologetically, so that people will know that they have been there and they have been in their space. So that's me kind of in a nutshell. And I do that in a variety of different ways, preaching and teaching and writing and all of those things. So I do it in different ways, but everything with me, the crux of it or the center of it is really about empowering women to be unapologetically who they have been created to be.
I love that, and I do understand being the only woman in the house.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other discussion. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's like, don't make me. I will not cook in this camp. Sometimes mama have to go on strike, but sons are special.
Mm-hmm. They are. Well, they treat me like a queen in here. So to that end, I appreciate my husband, and my husband has, instilled in my sons to treat me with the utmost care, as he does. And so, I don't have to do much around here, and so I'm grateful for that. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Now, in terms of, just kind of running everything, I'm grateful. I'm thankful that I have the support that I do and that I have the love. And so you're absolutely correct. Boys they're special.
They are, and I know sometimes around this house I have to assert my momhood. And I told my husband, I warned him, and I warned my son. I said, after he graduates high school, when I cook, it's going to be sporadic and be great, because I'm tired. So every time I do cook, it's an occasion. But I'm gonna tell you, when my son came back from basic training, he had a whole new mom appreciation that I could not have taught him, and everything. Even though I was ready to go and kidnap him from basic training. But like I said, that's a whole other show. So, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited about the topic about showing up great. And I love the way that you're not just teaching women or telling them to show up. You're telling them to show up great. So before we get into that, I want you to tell us a little bit, because I read over your bio, and we had like a few things in common. And one of the things that you mentioned, you talked a lot about your grandmother. So I would like for you to share a little bit with the audience about your grandmother and how she was a influence in your life.
Sure. So I realized the other day, and I'm working on another book. I'm always writing. I love to write. I think writing is very therapeutic, and, at least from my vantage point. And I just happen to share my writing with others. But, my writing is for me first. It's like the sermon is for the preacher first. At least it should be. And so my grandmother was the first disruptor that I saw. Right? So you don't know that and understand it until you become an adult, And I realized I'm working on this latest book. It's called Disruption is in My DNA. Glory. Because what we see now are women who are intentional. I love words. They are intentional about disrupting the status quo. And so my grandmother was the very first disruptor in my life when I look back on it. She was a business owner back in the early 50s when most women were at home and being homemakers and taking care of their families. Now, there's certainly nothing wrong with that because I came off of my job and took care of my family for 7 years. But my grandmother was a business owner, and she was one of 2 women in the entire community who owned a business. And so just her influence and she had great influence in the community, her influence and the way that she handled herself. I watched her over the years, how she negotiated and how she handled people who were her suppliers of, the products that she needed to run her dry cleaners and the people she needed to negotiate with to come in to make repairs to the building. She bought her building. She didn't just rent it. She bought the building early on. And so just watching that and all that she instilled in me about, she would always say, mother may have, father may have, but God bless the child that has its own. And so just really instilling those values and principles in me to have my own and to think for myself. And, I always tell folks I was a de facto CFO, COO, CAO, so whatever old folk have in their business, I have been that. Ordering supplies when I was young, running the business, all of these things. And so that, too, was very influential because she showed great trust in me early in my life, great trust in my abilities, in my thinking capacity, in my intellect, in, my intellectual prowess, if you will. And she not only trusted me, she was nurturing it, and she was developing it as we were going along. I remember very vividly sitting in the bedroom, counting money, putting money, all the ones together, all the fives together, learning the value of money, and just all of that. So my grandmother, she was a boss before it was cool to be a boss. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I love everything that you said, and just the fact that she owned a business in those days.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming your grandmother was black. I'll assume that.
Yes. My grandmother was black, and she and my grandfather actually started the business together. And, this is powerful as well because my grandfather, she waited for him to come home from the war, and they moved to the D.C. area from South Carolina in the late 40s. And so they started the business together and in 1948. And they ran the business together. And my grandfather, he was a master tailor. And, for folks that don't know, that meant that he made his own clothes. He, did alterations for others. And so thus they opened a dry cleaning business. But my grandfather, he taught himself to sew out of necessity because there were so many kids. If he wanted some new clothes, he had to make them. So learning how to, make clothes from old clothes, just powerful. But that is what, necessity is the mother of invention. So goes those quotes. That really pushed him to learn how to sew, teach himself, and then he taught my grandmother everything that she knew about sewing. I didn't have store-bought clothes for the first many years of my life. My grandmother made all of my clothes, and all of them were designer because they had my name on them.
Did you learn how to sew?
I did not. Right? Those are some of the lost arts. I did not, and let me explain to you why. Because my grandmother, she honed my natural abilities. And what I mean by that is she saw that I was a natural analytical person. I wanted to be a lawyer since the age of 9. I loved Perry Mason, loved Perry Mason, particularly at the end when Perry Mason would have the witness on the stand and he would be asking those questions in rapid succession and force those people to admit they were guilty. I loved it. So I had a natural ability for advocacy early on. My grandmother, she picked up on that, and her thing to me was, you go to school, and I'm going to make sure that you become the lawyer that you want to be. And that is exactly what my grandmother did.
Kudos
so she didn't hold me to,
Grandma.
Yeah, absolutely. She didn't hold me to, you work to take care of this, run this business. That wasn't her attitude. Her attitude was she wanted me to go further, but she understood that she was using the business to make a way for me to do that. And she was able to do that. She paid for my college just straight cash, just straight cash. You're right. Just like, what? How much is it? Okay, stroke the check. When I bought my first house, she stroked the check for $40,000 for a down payment. I mean, this is the kind of benefactor that I have been from her sacrifice and her pushing me. So my grandmother was major in my life, major.
I definitely agree that your grandmother was a boss. Was or is a boss. Is she still with us today?
No, she passed away. She and my mom actually passed away in the same month in 2005. So an only child, only grandchild. So I, lost my mom first, and then my grandmother passed away 17 days later. So, that's been a hard road, but I thank God for healing, and I thank God for all that they imparted into me and my mom. That was another whole story, because my mother was the impetus behind the Show Up Great. Somebody called it a movement, the Show Up Great movement that I have started, because, her thing was, it's not about what you have on, Nicole. It's about how you show up. And so the two of them really impacted my life in such a great way, and as well as my dad. My mom and my father, they divorced when I was 3, but my father was a major influencer in my life as well. I was certain that I was loved, and I was the apple of his eye, and everybody knew that. And, so I was a daddy's girl, and so I received love at every turn. And so just major players in my life, and, I am adamant and intentional about really being there for others in the ways that I can to help them tap into who they are, because all of those players that I just mentioned really tapped into me becoming who I was created to be and nothing else.
I agree with the disruption is in your DNA.
Oh, yes.
Good disruption. Now, when we talk about the formula to your success, I see where your DNA played a part in that. It laid the foundation. But what about the people that don't have that foundation? What about the people that don't have that support system and that love and that I'm going to show you? What would you say to them?
Sure. So this is my belief, sis. I believe that every person has at least one person that has showed interest in them, whether it was a teacher, somebody in the family. There is always that one person. And, I can think of countless stories that we have seen and read. I think about James Brown, that story. And although the lady was a madam, I remember her sitting on the side of his bed, and she said, "Little James, you're going to be somebody one day." little James, you're going to be famous. And I believe that everybody has somebody in their lives like that. But what tends to happen, Sister Valencia, is this. And let me go and put on my coaching hat. I have all these different hats that I wear. So let me put my coaching hat on. But what tends to happen is the brain naturally goes to the negative. For whatever reason, it's wired like that. I was just in a leadership class a few weeks ago with a neuroscientist. Our session was about neuroscience and leadership. And she talked about the brain. The brain naturally goes to the negative. We have to be intentional about reprogramming it to go positive. And this is why people who have been trained to coach others, you have many people calling themselves coaches, but have not had any training. But when people have been trained to coach, you learn this tactic called hijacking the amygdala. And the amygdala is the frontal lobe of the brain that has to do with our decision making, right? And so what happens is things in our lives, it kind of leaves an imprint, if you will, of how we respond to situations. So I'll give you an example. If you did not have the love and support as I did, for example, then you would automatically, depending upon what kind of situations you had, you might think that everybody is against you. You know, nobody's for me. I don't have any support. I don't have any help. And that is not necessarily the truth all the way around, because everybody has one person at least, and I think there are more, at least one person that if they really give themselves the time to go back, they can say, wow, that person did show some interest in my life. That person did tell me that I could be something. One person, a teacher, a counselor, somebody that you've come across because they saw something in you that you didn't necessarily see in yourself. But if that is the case, your brain now is hardwired to every situation go to the negative to think nobody's for me. Nobody's for me. They're against me. And, we all have that little small voice in our heads depending upon our exposure and experiences. But you hijack the amygdala by rewriting the story to say that is not true. No, little small self. No, that's not true. No, I remember Miss Davis. That was my third grade teacher. I'll use her. I remember Miss Davis telling me that I was smart enough to be a lawyer. And you have to go with that. And then you have to build a wall, if you will, or build a support system around that new way of thinking. And this is why when people, for example, go into rehab, when they come out of rehab, it's not a good thing for them to go back to the old neighborhood sometimes right away because they're not strong enough, because now you have to build a new support system around your new life. Does that make sense?
Yes, and yes.
Okay, yes. So for people who did not have that support system, then you have to create it. So that means you have to connect with powerful women like Sister Valencia, yes. You have you have to surround yourself with people who are positive and people who are going somewhere. So that means you have to be intentional about leaving the loser that surrounds your life, right? Because we are energy wrapped up in flesh. And so your energy puts out a vibration. And depending upon what your vibration is, that's what you draw to yourself. So if your vibration is low, that's what you draw to yourself. People who are low in spirit, low in thought, low in goals, low in achievement. But if your vibration is quick and fast, you are drawing to you others who have high vibration. That's why movers and shakers roll with movers and shakers. And people who smoke drugs roll with other people who smoke drugs. It's very simple. We're energy wrapped up in this flesh. And so I would also say to that person, look at yourself and examine it. What kind of vibration do you have? What are the people doing around you? Are they moving forward in their lives, or are they just mediocre? They follow the status quo. What kind of paradigms are they busting up? What kind of disruption are they doing? So all of that will come into play. And I would certainly encourage a person, get you somebody who will be honest with you. That's my final thing. Get you somebody that will be honest with you to tell you, no, your vibration is too low. You have much more potential in you than what you are putting out. And this is me with my sons and some of the young folk that I see. You know, I shared this story because my son, one of my sons, you know, he decided that he wanted to just kind of hang out in our neighborhood. No, you're not going to just hang out in the neighborhood because we didn't put that in you. We didn't raise you that way. But, okay, this is where you are right now in your life. But guess what? He know his mama is a disruptor. His mama is crazy when it comes to her children. And I go right down to where he decided he wanted to hang out a couple of months ago, walk right up in there and outside, start throwing holy oil everywhere, started disrupting their comfortability and telling all of y'all greater than this. You got much more potential in you than this. And nobody told you that. I'm telling you today, I love you, and that you're more than this, that you're greater than this. And when you stand on the block, do you know that comes from slavery when they sold your ancestors on the auction block? And so now you want to come out here and sell your soul and sell your spirit to the devil on the block? You're greater than that. So let me stop there because I could go on and on and on and on.
Well,
so, you have to look at yourself and be intentional about it. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
You hit so many points, and I know, like, I had a direction that the interview was going to go, but, you know, I'm always like, I'm a flow with it because you hit so many great points because I see it and I hear it all the time as people start to elevate. They find themselves feeling lonely and they're losing old friends and old habits and old people basically. But you cleared it up. So your energy is different. So if you have a positive energy, the negative people that found comfort with you because you were negative like them no longer are comfortable with you. So they will leave you, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. It's just plain and simple. Absolutely. And guess what? You have to learn how to be okay with that. You know, see, people who are great and people who are disruptive and have disruption in their DNA and my definition of disruption is people who are designed, who were built to disrupt the status quo. You know, I always tell people, not only will I get out the boat, but I'm going to get and walk on water. I'm going to get out the boat, walk on water, and turn the boat over. That's just my energy for as far back as I can remember. And so because perhaps I was an only child, only grandchild, maybe this is why my spirit is so strong that, you know, I really don't care about walking by myself because I've always been by myself. But you have to be okay. You have to be okay with being by yourself. You have to be okay with going against the status quo. You have to be okay with people not liking you and people not engaging you and not accepting you. This is why you have to have a good dose of self-esteem. And my mother and my grandmother were very intentional about imparting that into me, you know, almost injecting me with it, you know, that you don't apologize, Nicole, for being smart and being beautiful and being brilliant and bold and all of those things that you are. Because, see, the world would try to get you to conform to its system, get you to conform to being quiet when you should speak up, to get you to stay in the background when you ought to come to the forefront of your own life. God did not cause us to come to earth to be supporting actors and actresses in our lives. No, he sent us here to be main characters. And so that means that you have to get out on the front line of your own life. And you have to be okay with people looking at you, giving you the side eye, asking the question, well, who does she or he think they are? Well, I'm going to tell you, watch my smoke, and I'm going to show you better than I can tell you who I am. I am bold. I am bodacious. I'm beautiful. And guess what? I have brains. So I'm going to use all of that to execute and implement what I have been sent to the earth to do without apology.
Woo! You give me chills. This is definitely one of the shows I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the replay. You're awesome. You are
so
awesome.
are you. Mm-hmm.
So
like spirits beget like spirits.
Yes, and
don't miss that
it's
point.
So definitely not. And it's crazy and funny and interesting how we actually connected. And I'll touch on that later when we get a chance. But I want, what does it mean to show up great?
So, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, my mother was always very adamant about how I was showing up. And what she was interjecting into my heart and my spirit with the caveat, Nicole, it's not about what you have on. So right there, she was debunking the whole setup about clothing. You know, see, we get so caught up in the exterior and the clothing. Now, I love nice, fine clothes. Don't get me wrong. So let me put a caveat there. And my grandmother loved to put me in nice, fine clothing. Like I said, my grandmother made all of my clothing, and she had my name sprawled all over and everything. And I remember very vividly having a 3/4 length rabbit coat going to elementary school, so much so that the vice principal called a meeting to tell my mother and my grandmother that I couldn't wear that kind of coat to school because no other children didn't have anything like that. Okay, so, let's not get it twisted. It's not about not liking nice things. But my mother's point was, don't get caught up in those things because the greater value is within you. So to her point, it's not about what you have on, it's how you show up, meaning it's what you think about yourself when you enter a room. When you enter a room, do people take note of you, or are you, quote, insignificant, as I like to say? Because there are many people, when they show up in the room, they are insignificant. No one even turns to look. They don't even, there's nothing significant about the person because the person doesn't feel significant. And that comes from the inside of you. When you are confident, when you show up in the room, there is an air about you, as the old folk used to say. There is an air with you. There is an aura that hovers around you that makes people stop and notice you. And it's not about what you have on, because I can go into a room and I can have holy jeans on, although that's a style now. But, I can have holy jeans on, toe up, holy shirt, whatever, but people will still take notice because I am so sure of myself and why I entered the room in the first place. This is why women leaders, when I am coaching them, no, you don't sit on the periphery in the board meeting. You sit at the table. No, sit at the table. And then offer something at the meeting that is of substance. And I always remember I was in a meeting when I was shadowing one of my early coaches. Before coaching was coaching, I was being coached and mentored early on in my professional career, and I was able to have access to high-level meetings because of my mentor and my coach. And so we were at this meeting, and we were in the meeting, and at the head of the table was this woman disruptor, and she was a woman scientist back then, and this was the early 90s. And I will never forget her statement. And she said, the worst thing that a woman can be is vogue but vague. Okay? Vogue, V-O-G-U-E, meaning that you show up and you looking good. Because, see, what happens is when you get a message, and this is how people's lives end up, one way or the other, and you have to be intentional about making some changes. See, I had already gotten that messaging from my mom. And so all along the way in my life, that message about showing up has just been affirmed over and over and over again. So here I was in this meeting. She said the worst thing that a woman can be is vogue but vague. She said, show up, you're looking good, but you're vague. When you open your mouth, it is evident by what you say you don't have a clue about what you're talking about. And I never forgot that. And so for me, it all made sense. It was all gelling together. When I look back on it now, hindsight is 20/20, that I was just getting those messaging from different pockets in my life about it's not what you have on, it's about how you show up. So when you sit at that board table and you open your mouth, let it be something of substance. Let your contribution be something that makes a difference in whatever the subject matter is. And so that means that you have to spend a little extra time getting ready for the meeting to be well-versed on the subject matter. So be it, whatever it is, whatever your vocation is, you should be always learning, right? Whatever industry you're a part of, you should be learning and knowing your industry. Listen, women don't have the luxury of being a B game or second fiddle. No, you got to come with your A game. And so for me, that means that you show up and you're confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, and you don't back down from it.
Nail on the head, or as I like to say, mics thoroughly dropped. Why do you? It's you dropped the mic. Like I have to regroup my question. I love that you hit so many points, especially when you talked about valuing who we are and showing up in the room and people knowing that you're there. I don't have to put my hand up and say, hey, I'm here. You feel that energy. You feel that power when I walk in a room. Otherwise, I could have stayed home if I wasn't going to bring it. Why do you think women and men, I'm not singling you out, but you guys know I always say I'm a woman, so I'm talking to the women first. Men, you listen up too. Why do you think women have a problem with that? Why do we have a problem with standing out in the room? Why do we have a problem when it comes to people turning their heads and looking at us when we showed up?
Well, I think that that's it's for a variety of different reasons. Socially and culturally, those are two different things. So all of that comes into play. Your social norms, your cultural norms, your racial norms, all these things come into play. And so, on a broad scale, doing a broad stroke, women in general and overall have been taught to be quiet. You be seen and not heard. Number one, women have been shown that your value is less than. Women have been taught to what you bring to the table is not as important as what I bring to the table. Studies have shown. And this came out in the Obama administration, and I heard it in several meetings that I found myself in at a senior level, that the women would give a suggestion, it would be overlooked, but when the man gave the same suggestion, it would be lauded and praised. And that happens across the board. But the women in the Obama administration, they decided that they were going to support the woman who made a recommendation. So, for example, if there were three of us in the boardroom, then Valencia would make a point. Then Nicole would say, well, yes, I second Valencia's point on X, Y, and Z. And then the third woman at the table would say, yes, well, I agree with Valencia's point that da-da-da-da-da. So they started to disrupt the norm in the boardroom by saying, no, Valencia made that point. And so we're not going to take Matt's suggestion and recommendation as Matt and him taking ownership of it because he wasn't the originator of the point. It was Valencia. And so I think, women have had these different norms and these different systems, like I like to call them, systems and boxes that we have been placed into. But when you come into an awareness of who you are, that'll make me start preaching right there. When you come into an awareness of who you are and what you bring to the table, nothing or no one can stop you. You then become a force to be reckoned with. The other thing, too, sis, is that, we have experienced betrayal of other women. All of us have experienced it. We have experienced the backlash and the cattiness of other women. But I always say to women, become the example that you want to see. So although I've had bad experiences with women, that does not make me discount our sisterhood, because I have many other sisters that have supported me and lifted me and encouraged me and empowered me. There again, changing the paradigm, hijacking the amygdala that, no, women can't get together. That's a lie from the pit of hell, because there are scores of women. Not only are we getting along, but we are collaborating. We are pushing forth the agenda to empower women. We are making big, bold, boss moves. So all of that other stuff, you have to disrupt it. So all of that comes into play that makes, some women want to cower down and back down. And for me, it just really boils down to esteem. Because once your confidence is there and you're not comparing yourself to woman A and woman B because you are so confident and certain about what you bring to the table, that's when you can really begin to make strides in your life.
I agree 150%. And it's so many things that you just said in that last statement. And I know a lot of times I think people don't realize when we repeat statements, whether it's on social media, whether it's out loud, then we draw that to us. So if we repeat the statement that women can't work together, well, you put it out there. That's the energy you've given out. A lot of times, I've seen people put it publicly, and you're wondering why no women want to work with you. Well, you already told me that women can't work together or women can't support each other. So in my life, I don't want that negativity. I will block, delete, and move on. And it's funny, like even when I get ready to have guests on the show, and as I'm prepping the, things for the show, looking at guests or whatever, I check people out on social media because I know the type of energy and vibe that this show must have in order for me to fulfill the vision I was given for it.
Yeah.
And to that, it's an interesting journey, but to that, long as I stay true to that, it's going to go how I want it to go and how it's supposed to go, because that's the energy I put out.
Yeah, that is so true, and using the buzzwords that people use now, what's the brand that you want to put out? Just use the buzzwords, but you're absolutely correct. Same thing that I said earlier about vibration. What is the brand that you want to put out? There are certain things that I just will not even respond to because, I was watching, for example, the Women in the World Summit last week via live stream, and you could make comments, and of course they were talking about a variety of different issues that really impact women on a global level. One of them happened to be human sex trafficking, and one person on the feed said, "This is gay," and somebody else responded. And I responded to that person, listen, some things don't deserve a response at all. Ignorance is one of them. See, you've got to learn when to hold them and when to fold them, right? And some things don't deserve a response. And so I, from where I was sitting, I'm like, don't even start responding to this person, whoever they are. People are able to hide behind these accounts in their homes and be cowards and make all kinds of statements and do all these different kinds of things, and you can choose whether you engage them or not. But the conversation had been going so well with the women who were on there on the live feed, and my thought was, don't engage that person. There are some things that don't deserve a response at all. Ignorance is one of them. And the lady came back. She said, Nicole, you are absolutely correct. Guess what? We didn't hear another peep from that person. So you have to stick with your brand identity. My brand identity is to empower women, to encourage. So there's certain things that you will not see on any of my social media platforms because I'm not engaging in it. I'm not even going down to the level of some of this stuff that we see going on. Even with being able to respond to some of the things on other people's pages, I'm not responding to that either. I see it, yes, but I'm not taking the time to stop and respond to that. You got to be kidding me. We only have so much time on the earth. We have to choose how we spend it, and I choose to spend mine positively and by making a difference and making impact in the earth for good.
I see so many more people need to take that attitude of not responding, because I will see people that I once respected or, like their posts, and somebody, in fact, it actually happened today, and somebody made a comment, and so they went all the way left with their response and continued to respond. So now I'm looking at this person a different way. Like, I mean, because I'm sure, I know I have had to delete comments before, and sometimes I have to go to the Lord, like, Lord, you still dealing with me on some stuff, and I want to respond so bad.
Yeah.
We have to have that quick talk, and he has to remind me it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about you in your feelings at this moment, because 5 minutes later you won't even remember that person's name. Then I have to say, lesson learned, Lord.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's too much energy. It takes too much energy, and I just my whoever coins silence is golden. I need to find them and give them an offering, because that has been such a blessing in my life. Some things just don't deserve my energy and my time, and I am very intentional about it. It's like I see it, but I don't see it, and I keep it moving. It's like I'm on a mission to save souls, change people's lives, impact them for good, and I'm not about to let any little distraction, any fox hold me up. It's just not going to happen.
Amen. Hard work, discipline, dedication. Is that the true formula to success?
I would say yes, but I think the foundation for success has to be faith. And, you have to believe in something greater than yourself, particularly in the times that we find ourselves in. You have to be able to have an outlet for the things that concern you, And so for me, it's my faith. It's prayer. It's really having a great support system as I work hard and have discipline and commitment and dedication and stick-to-itness and fortified on the inside and, intellectual prowess, meaning, intellectual strength, that I'm not easily persuaded to quit. Quitting is not an option. All of these different things, when they are compacted together, you can really find yourself gaining momentum to really accomplish some great things. That does not mean accomplishing all the things all at one time, but really taking priority in your life to figure out what you should be working on now, what's coming next, and really building a system around you to be successful. So for me, it's almost like, for example, when I travel to preach, I have a system, a support system. I have sister friends that help my husband with my son. He's 11, so they help with the caring for him, picking him up, that kind of thing, really supporting me in that way. You have to have a support system. But this is the thing that I find very important for us that either makes or breaks us. You have to let people know that you need help. And that's not something that we are trained to do again, because we've seen it in our lives where women have this, quote, superwoman syndrome, right? But you have to let people know you need help because you can't do it all. We're not like our ancestors and, you know, people who came before us. And I didn't see this model where, you know, the woman was at home, you know, just caring for the home. And that was a huge job in and of itself. But you have women now who are caring for the home, have to work outside the home, you know, have to take care of the kids, you know, have to take care of the husband, you know, all these things. And then deal with the stress on their jobs, and if they have a business, deal with, you know, the fluctuations of the money coming in, paying the expenses, all those things. We need help. We need support. And we have to let people know what we need. You know, like for me, when you start talking about the cooking, my husband and I share responsibilities in our home, you know. So I'm not the only one cooking. No, he does the cooking too. I'm not the only one washing clothes. He washes clothes too. I'm not the only one cleaning. He cleans too, because we both work and we both have all these things going on. And, you know, he supports me in my ministry. He supports me in my travel. I wouldn't be able to do it without him. He supports me when I'm writing on a book, so that takes time to do it. You know, so all of that, it is a partnership. But you have to let people know what you need. I can't tell you the number of women that I have coached and mentored and ministered with, and, you know, I say, you know, have you talked to your husband about the help you need? Well, no. Well, he is not a mind reader. You need to tell him what you need. You know, so for me, I think it's all of that and really building a support system that supports you and your goals.
Like they say, a closed mouth don't get fed.
Yeah.
And you hit on something that I wanted to touch on real quick, because you talked about how you and your husband are partners and how you guys support each other and you communicate. That's the difference, I do believe, like why a lot of women, the majority of the women I know are single. Because, and I said one of the foundations I found in that makes my relationship still feel like honeymoon is because we work together. We work together, and that's why I'm able to do what I do the way that I do it. You know, as a whole picture in this household, we work together. So that's why my household is peaceful. It's peace because we're a team. And people don't, and I've communicated that. I've been communicating with my son since he was in the womb. And I said, Lord, I don't know if I ever get married. And son, it may just be me and you. We're going to make this thing work. And when me and my husband were dating, I communicated with him who I was, and I'm glad he came into my life when I had already grew up to be Valencia. So I was able to communicate what I did and didn't need, my dreams for my life, the visions that I was given. Can you support this? Or like the youngsters say, or nah. So needless to say, we married. So apparently his answer was yes. So I love that.
That's another topic for another show because, you know, I've been with this same man for 30 years, and it has not always been like this. But that's another time for another show. And, you know, just in case people are listening, they're struggling in their marriage, it takes time to get to harmonious living, you know, really working through your own stuff, your own baggage that you bring to the table. But my husband and I made a commitment early on in our relationship that divorce was just not an option. We you know, if he had to go sleep one place in the house, I'll sleep another place, that's all right, but we're going to sleep in the same house, okay, right? But that's another topic, you know, another conversation, because it's work. You know, marriage does not just happen. It is work.
You guys hear that? That's her letting us know there will be a part 2, a second interview. I'm just saying. So, Miss Nicole, tell us about your book. I believe you have a book out. I know you have a book coming up.
So I actually have 2, but my latest book is called Morning Meditation, Starting Your Day with Power, Passion, and Purpose. And it is a book of meditations that really have blessed people, for some of the meditations. One of the, I think my favorite is, it's called You Are Greatness in Motion. I love that one. And another one is Laugh at the Haters, or, something about the haters. And one is You Can Make It, You Can Do It, Go For It. Just different meditations that really speak to someone in their lives, and it's quick reading. There's a space in the book for people to, write their thoughts out. The book has been used in prisons with women. We're actually going to be going into a couple of shelters to use this book. I've had it translated into Spanish. I'm going to be sharing it with my first Hispanic church. We have a Hispanic community in our church, but I'm going to be sharing it outside of our church in the first Hispanic church next month. So the book is on the move, and, it's just really good. Again, I write out of, it's therapeutic for me. So when I write, I am writing to encourage myself, and I encourage others, as I write. My first book is called Monday Morning Motivation, and it's a similar kind of thread in nature, and it's easy reading. It's something that, people have told me about the Monday morning motivations. They're like, I know I'm just supposed to read it on Mondays, but I read it all during the week. So, I laugh. I'm like, yeah. So they're short meditations, and, the whole purpose is to encourage your heart, lift your spirit, impact your spirit, and get you on your way. So it's very powerful, and it's on Amazon, and people can always send me a message through my website, NicoleSMason.com, if they want a personalized one or a personalized copy of one. So yeah, and they can certainly contact me across the social media platforms if they want to get the information on how I can send them a copy and autograph it.
And I'll be ordering mine with my special autograph in there today.
Okay, yes, good. Good. Well, I'm sending you one.
Yay!
And thank you for allowing me to share on your platform. So, yeah, we can get your information once we hang up. But, yeah, I'm sending you one. I want to be a blessing to you. And so, for me, it's really about impacting lives and changing people's hearts that they can make it in this thing we call life. Not everybody has faith, and so I am injecting faith to others. So just on a mission, again, using the different platforms to do the same thing, and that is to empower the lives of people, of course, my writing, and, in particular, my tribe, of course, is women. But, men have purchased the book and have been blessed by it as well. Because the Word of God is the Word of God, and that's for everybody.
And I love injecting faith, because people that have faith or something to believe in, to me, that gives them a reason not to give up when they have something to believe in. So, Miss Nicole, you are just the awesome of the awesome, as I like to say.
Oh, thank you.
What one tip would you like to leave the audience with tonight to help them show up great?
And so my one tip is to believe in yourself. You are enough. Believe in yourself. And if you need some help to get to that place where you can really feel confident, then certainly reach out. Let's work together. I would love to be your coach. And I am confident that there will be a change. There will be a change. You will see the change in your life if you work with me as your coach. I have, scores of testimonies of women who were once in the background. Now they are on Front Street of their own lives. And that, to me, is worth every bit of sacrifice, every bit of turmoil and tragedy and all those other things that I've had to endure for a time such as this. So thank you so much for this awesome opportunity.
And thank you. And guys, I want to amen and second that. Like I said, after me and this beautiful lady talked on the phone, I have been on I felt lighter. I feel more focused because she helped me, whether she know it or not, focus on the right thing. So I just want to just tell you again, thank you so much, Ms. Nicole, and welcome to the Define You Radio family.
Thank you, and thank you. It was a blessing, and I'm honored to be able to be a blessing to God's people. So thank you.
Well, guys, make sure you connect with Miss Nicole Mason at www.NicoleSMason.com. Her information will be on the Define You Radio Facebook page. And if you're listening online, her information will be in the show notes. Remember, guys, knowledge is one thing, but applying it is a whole other. What one thing can you apply from tonight's show to help you define your life? Let us know on Define You Radio's Facebook page, or join Define You Movement on Facebook for the show after party, discussion, and more. We do all kind of stuff in that group. With that being said, guys, I'm going to close out with a quote from Marie Forleo. Show up in every single moment like you're meant to be there. With that being said, pens and papers down. Class is officially over.
It's what I've always wanted.
Steve's got the stars.
Got a big old cushy chair. It's nice.
Today, Premiere Week keeps rolling with late-night legend Jay Leno.
How about that?
Plus, Jordan Sparks. And coming Friday, Charlie Sheen and a performance by Leanne Rhymes.
It's all new, and it's gonna be big.
And it's all on Steve.
New York, weekdays at 2 on NBC4, New York. It's what I've always wanted.
Steve's got the stars.
Got a big old cushy chair. It's nice.
Today, Premiere Week keeps rolling with late-night legend Jay Leno.
How about that?
Plus, Jordan Sparks. And coming Friday, Charlie Sheen and a performance by Leanne Rhymes.
It's all new, and it's gonna be big.
And it's all on Steve.
New York, weekdays at 2 on NBC4, New York.